Hey everybody, welcome to Far Out Dudes.
It's another week, and I have another far out conversation for us.
Well, good job, Joseph.
You like that? You like that?
Finally bringing the
Change
conversation.
up?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I like it.
But I get to say that we are on location
Yeah.
at 3 Mile Island.
I don't feel safe here.
Everybody's gone for the holiday weekend, so we are literally sitting in their parking lot. We jumped over the fences. We set up our podcast
We're
here for
here
you guys.
illegally.
Yeah. So, again, thank you for the money that you send us, and hopefully we don't get arrested. Hopefully we can finish this podcast without anybody stopping us. It's kind of strange that the clouds from the those pipes over there not
Stop pointing those out.
edit it out. Anyway,
Also, that we don't get cancer from
yeah, I'm feeling
filming.
a little bit of
around this
radiation
area.
burn already. Anyway,
What do you know about 3 Mile Island, first off?
it's 3 miles
Correct.
and it's an island.
Correct.
And it
We're on
was
the roll.
close to exploding, similar to Chernobyl.
Well, this
from my
happened
understanding.
before Chernobyl.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is,
So I don't know why they don't call it America's 3 Mile Island.
yeah.
I think call it Chernobyl.
Well, that's because Chernobyl actually blew up, whereas I don't think 3 miles.
So,
did, right?
3 Mile Island.
All
Let's
right.
get jump into it. Jump into those nuclear reactors. Okay.
Nuclear reactors.
3 Mile. Let me look at my notes here. So
All
3
right.
Mile Island,
Okay.
as we all know,
Yes, it's 3 miles.
was a nuclear meltdown that occurred in Middletown, Pennsylvania. which-
Pennsylvania.
Ironically, isn't in the middle of anything.
Oh wow, that's hilarious.
On the date, it's gonna get cut. On the date of March 28th, 1979,
Okay.
at 4 a.m.
Ooh.
in the
early morning.
Unit 2 control room,
Unit
there is
2.
a room of operators that are doing their job.
operator.
Operators
Okay.
doing their job.
Alrighty, cool.
When out of nowhere,
Ah.
nearly every alarm starts going off.
Ooh. That's
And they got
scary.
no warning of, these alarms are going to go off or anything crazy.
There was no warning. Were those?
There was no warning for the warnings
Oh wow.
that anything was going on.
Wow.
Well, like all the alarms going off. Like
Okay.
one didn't start and then another one started. They just all started blaring at the same time.
Okay, so it wasn't one warning; it was multiple warnings.
The whole wall went up.
the whole alarm system was going berserker.
Berserkas, yes. And so they all started scrambling to figure out what was going on. And the
What?
temperature of the core was rising.
So nobody was staying calm during this entire moment.
No,
They
believe it
were
or
all
not,
scrambling around,
Correct.
like chickens with their heads cut off.
it wasn't put that way. But
Okay,
so
sounds like it though.
the temperature, well, let me tell you why. The temperature of the core was rising,
Mm-hmm.
even though it was showing the water level was full. For some reason, they called for the water pump to be turned off. And exactly. And as Rick Parks, a nuclear plant operator, said, quote, "You never shut down water across a core."
I
Never.
would. Okay, so I'm no nuclear physicist or anything,
Uh-huh.
or I've never worked at. Well, most people have never worked at a.
It's not a normal job to have, no.
But I would think
Uh-huh.
you would probably want water for the reactor.
Yeah, to keep it cool.
Yeah.
You would think.
I think not having cool water or water at all would
Mm-hmm.
probably cause even more issues.
And that reason being is that's what's keeping the core cool. Without the water moving across the core, it overheats and goes nuclear.
What?
Now, what caused that scenario was a pressure relief valve that got stuck open. So no fresh water was going in, being pumped across. And as they cut off the water pump, temperatures started to rise immediately.
Okay, so wait,
Snap
wait,
of a
wait, wait,
finger.
wait. So their first reaction to all of the alarms going off
Mm-hmm.
was we need to turn off the water that
We
could
need
be
to turn
cooling
off
it
the
down?
water pump because
So
it was showing that the water level was still full.
So their assumption was, right, because
Mm-hmm.
we all know what assuming does. It makes,
And as you and me,
well,
an umption.
and well, it made it out of them,
Yes.
right? So what ended up
100%.
happening is that it wasn't full.
No.
And so it actually
Well,
caused,
Well, the
What?
valve was stuck open.
what valve?
The pressure relief valve.
The pressure relief
Yes.
valve. So it was saying that it was full when it wasn't.
Correct.
So it wasn't necessarily anything that, if they would have just left the water on, it probably wouldn't have really caused anything. It was just a valve that was kind of messed
Well,
up.
in the scenario they were in, not knowing, like,
Okay.
also they weren't very properly trained.
Okay, I'm guessing you're going to get into that.
Yes.
Okay.
So stop jumping ahead.
Well, I'm trying to think, like, what exactly.
Your answers are going to get, your questions are going to get answered.
Okay, please.
Let me freaking read my notes, right? So at 7 a.m. the next morning, the news reports that the plant had shut down due to an accident in the turbine system.
Ooh.
Officials, including the Metropolitan Edison, who operated the plant, have been saying there is no danger to the general public and the situation is under control. Have you heard that, right?
I would say that I've heard that quite a bit, especially these days.
Yeah, well, let me ask you, do you think it was under control?
Knowing the media and knowing the government and knowing people who run nuclear reactors, I would say yes. I believe them. I believe everybody.
Yeah, no matter what they said, no, it wasn't under control.
Okay.
Not at all.
Oh, man, I really believed everybody.
Here's something interesting.
Okay.
Just 12 days prior to this, a movie called The China Syndrome came out. And the way it matches up to that, what happened is very eerie.
I've heard of the China Syndrome. Isn't that where kind of like there's like a nuclear reactor melts but goes all the way down to China or something like that?
Close.
Okay.
In the movie, there's a turbine issue at a nuclear power plant. They also stop the water pump due to the gauge showing it's full. And the manager taps the dial, and it unsticks. So they avoid everything, and it drops what it actually was. So it was a false alarm, and everything was fine. But the movie is also set in Pennsylvania.
It makes me think of other movies that happen that way, where it's like there's movies that come out right before that happens. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of the
like Star Wars?
Yeah, that's happening right now. But have you heard of the show called Utopia on Amazon?
No.
So it's basically the show's about a guy who writes a
what?
The episode's about a guy who writes a comic book about a virus, a disease that's going out, and that's going to kill
virus.
That it's going to kill a lot of people.
That needs to be something we look into.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do next on the
and
next
how the
podcast.
Simpsons predict everything.
Yeah. Like how a lot of movies or other things come out right before those incidences.
Back to the real 3 Mile Island.
Okay.
Every hour, things just start to deteriorate. Alarms keep going off, gamma ray alerts, and it's getting into the control room. And to quote Mr. Parks again, it was a clusterfuck in the control room.
Ah, okay. That sounds like what would be happening.
During that entire time and the 5-hour delay from letting the public know, Metropolitan Edison still kept saying there's nothing wrong, there's no major radiation, nothing's leaked.
Well, let me ask you this.
But as you can guess, it was leaking the entire time.
My question though to that is, how much information did this particular individual have to say? Were people telling him like nothing's happening, we're trying to figure it out? So he went out into the media and was like, "Hey, there's nothing going on, guys. We're figuring it out. We'll get you. Don't worry. We're gonna figure this out completely."
You're gonna figure it out. So they said what was leaking was no more harmful than a dental X-ray. Then they run a helicopter 130 feet above the stacks, and they reported over 1,200 millirem per hour.
Oh, wow.
And based on the research I found, the max millirem one person is allowed by the government standards is 6,000.
Yeah.
Yearly.
Yes.
Not daily. Or hourly.
Yeah.
So this whole time, they have cops, fire departments going through the town saying, hey, if you're in a brick house, cover your windows, you're fine. And then going back around saying, hey, you're not fine, you need to leave.
Yeah,
and
no, I've heard that radiation doesn't go through brick.
No, not at all. You're safe. You just cover those glass windows.
Yeah.
Because
with paper.
Because glass is clear,
yeah,
radiation goes through it easier. Like
you just got to put paper towels or newspaper
or aluminum foil
or plastic or aluminum foil.
Yeah.
So
finally, they issue the evacuation of anyone within the 5-mile radius of the plant, and everyone 10 miles within, they're saying to stay indoors indefinitely. And the governor is saying this is all precautionary and just trying to keep everyone from panicking.
Okay.
And that's when everyone panicked and decided to leave.
You know what I would have done?
The next day, half the town left.
You know what I would have done?
Panicked?
No, I would have put newspaper on my windows like they told me to.
At this point, the governor asked at the time President Carter to send someone down there that will be the manager and face of the ground operations, because they had so much miscommunication from all the parties involved of exactly what was going on, because you had this person saying these, and then the management talking to these people and giving them bad information. So President Carter sends down his personal representative and chief operations officer of the NRC, Mr. Harold Denton.
Okay.
The first thing he did was go out in a press interview and let everyone know that they were concerned about a hydrogen bubble inside the reactor vessel, which, if left to itself, would explode.
Perfect.
Which is what happened years later at Chernobyl. The hydrogen explosion blew the roof off of the reactor itself, releasing all the radioactivity. And I'll remind you, this is day 4, and they haven't issued a full evacuation yet.
Wow.
And on the 5th day, they did more calculations and noticed an error. Thankfully...
Did they evacuate people then?
No. Thankfully, this error meant that there was no danger of the hydrogen blowing up.
Oh,
I want to point out also at this time, this is going on, the plant cost $700 million to build and operate for less than 90 days.
Wow.
So, which brings us to the cleanup. Can you guess how much they estimate this cleanup would cost?
Wait, so did they fix the problem? Because we were close to a nuclear explosion. Well, they found out that wasn't. Yeah. Did they ever find out that it was just as simple as fixing a valve and then turning the water back on?
No, because the damage had already occurred.
So,
everything inside the reactor melted.
Oh, snap.
There was a partial meltdown. But there was no hydrogen bubble that would
cause an explosion.
Explode and then go full nuclear.
So did they just shut down the machine itself?
Yeah, they shut everything down.
Oh,
they had to.
Okay. So they got to it before it got to the Chernobyl.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the cost, how much do you think it's cost? Without looking at my notes.
$7 million.
$7 million
snap.
To get it fixed.
I looked at your notes.
Okay. AJ, how much
I was gonna guess, but okay.
What were you gonna guess?
6 million.
6.
It doesn't matter.
It was
He's not
$1 billion.
Oh, snap.
Was the estimated cost to get this fixed.
You're not on the show, bro.
Yeah.
My fault, G. Go ahead.
So GPU, who owned the plant, hired Bechtel. Now, Bechtel, at the time, was an over 100-year-old company already and have done a ton of things, but got started constructing railroads back in the late 1800s.
Wait, can I ask you something?
Yes.
I don't know if you're going to give this answer yet, but so this was definitely a $1 billion cleanup?
It's cost over $1 billion.
Oh, it cost over. So
that was their estimate.
That was an estimate.
Yes, of how much it would cost.
Holy moly, donut chop.
Now, where was I? Bechtel. Oh, yeah. They started building railroads back in the late 1800s. And they were very well politically connected and the largest private construction company in the world at the time.
Okay.
By the 60s and 70s, they were involved in the construction of 40% of the nuclear power plants in the U.S., according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
After that, they switched their focus to nuclear cleanup and were obviously involved in 3 Mile Island. What a coincidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me back to Mr. Rick Parks, who, as I mentioned, was a nuclear power plant operator.
Oh.
In June 1980, Rick Parks started in the cleanup of the incident. He said, quote, Bechtel was known as a get-it-done-no-matter-what type of company. He is also a whistleblower on the shortcuts they took to clean up the mess as quickly as possible.
Well, and that, it's hard to think that because you get a company who says get it done no matter what, that they would take shortcuts.
No, they're legitimate.
You don't usually hear that from people who say those kinds of things. When they're like, hey, we need this particular product to get it done, and they're like, just get it done without it. I don't care how it's done, just get it done.
Yeah, and that's how they get around things too. They just tell people, just get it done. Like,
just get it done.
I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but get it done.
Well, that sounds very ethical to me.
So the first thing they had to do was vent all the gas and radioactivity gas out of there.
Okay.
And what they constructed was a ventilating system. They run a hose into it and pump the air out through that vent system.
Okay.
But they, as Rick Parks would put it, they put duct tape on it. There wasn't, literal duct tape, but that wasn't fixing the issue.
I was going to say, because duct tape is pretty reliable. to
I
fix
mean,
things.
that's
I
what
use it
he
on a
said.
lot of things.
He said, "Ask any regnet, duct tape will fix a lot of things."
Hey,
I just
broken?
didn't want
I duct tape it.
Yeah. As a point to how and why, of course, the reason behind it
Mm-hmm.
was money. The owners of the plant Energy Solutions had a clause that in order to release more money, Bechtel had to hit milestones of the cleanup. So each day that the milestone was getting closer, everyone was being pushed by Bechtel to hit that milestone.
Boom, get it done.
And millions of dollars were being put at stake here. Because remember, just the estimate was $1 billion.
They were like, get it done.
And yeah, they shipped in the whole 18-wheeler full of duct tape
Yeah.
to get it
Hey,
done.
look at me, I'm putting duct tape right here.
See that big crack in that reactor there? Done.
Boom.
Put duct tape
What
on
it-
your windows.
What is it? Okay.
So the milestone that started this whole fiasco was the building's polar crane. That was needed to raise the cover off the reactor to start pulling out all the melted fuel rods and metals that were in there.
Okay.
The problem was all the venting had exposed the crane and was radioactive. So they would need to replace all the cables, the brakes. It had to be spick and span to make sure it was safe to move everything. Because if you try to lift it up and that crane breaks and drops
I don't see a problem.
the top on it, that's when the whole China syndrome thing could.
What is the China syndrome again?
China
Because you never
syndrome-
explained it after I said what it might be.
Oh, well, the China syndrome is what happened at Chernobyl, pretty much. It causes that nuclear reaction to blow up with that hydrogen exploding and melts superheated to, as they put it, can melt into the ground to the other side of the Earth to China.
Okay. So I was close.
You were close,
Okay.
yes. So Rick Parks looked over the documents for the modifications needed to start replacing those needed parts for the crane, and there was none. The head that was there for Bechtel didn't want to spend the money. They wanted it done faster to make sure there was no delaying and hitting that milestone.
Yeah, we need to get it done. We can't wait for parts to come in. This is a nuclear reactor situation, and who cares if we do it right?
Yeah, just as long as you hit that milestone.
Yeah.
They're safe miles away. So they had also found
Gotta
out.
make that money.
Yeah, they had also found out that Bechtel also jerry-rigged some parts on the crane and wanted to operate it to get the cleanup going. Mind you, they hadn't load tested it yet. So Rick Parks and Ed Gischel, who was the head of engineering, both went to Larry King, the director of cleanup operations.
Oh, I thought it was like Larry King.
That's
Live.
what I thought too. But I was like, what's he doing there? But he was the director of the cleanup operations and said that it needs to be tested first to make sure it's safe before removing the head off of a melted reactor.
Yeah.
He told them, yeah, he agrees, and that none of them would sign off on it, that it needed to be tested first.
Okay. That sounds like we're keeping safety first.
It seems
Okay.
responsible.
Yes.
Especially when the whole plant is surrounded by an entire town
Yeah.
that's not in the middle of anything.
Safety first,
even though
people.
being
Safety
called
first.
Middletown.
Yeah.
So Larry King went straight to the VP of GPU and told him exactly that, because he either knew what was going on and didn't care,
Mm-hmm.
or he had no idea what was going on, and both were a huge problem. So there was no paperwork on where the material came from to fix the parts or who did it or anything. Bechtel told them, we got to do it now. So all those parts for
That's a good leader right there.
melted nuclear reactor, they didn't know where those parts to fix the crane came from, who did the work to fix it, and they were going to lift the top off of a melted nuclear reactor to make sure they hit the milestone.
Yeah, my truck broke down one day, and all of a sudden it was fixed. I don't know who fixed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who cares?
It broke down further down the road,
Yeah.
and I had to call an actual mechanic.
Mhm.
But the first time, I don't know who the strange guy was that was like, I got you, bro.
With duct tape.
And I paid him like $200.
Yeah. Anyways, so we've hit the time limit for this podcast episode,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Oh,
So there's going to be a part 2,
dose.
and it only gets worse from here.
What?
It gets so much worse. Mr.
Man.
Parks.
I thought they were
and-
going to handle the whole situation like easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yeah, you'd think so. You'd think so with the nuclear reactor, but no. But Larry King, Rick Parks, and Mr. Gischel, all three of them get into some stuff.
So hear about how Larry King, before he became a radio host /
This is what drove him to search that truth to become
Yes.
a radio host.
Man.
So thank everyone for watching this first part. Like, share, subscribe,
hit that bell.
leave a comment no matter what it is.
Yep.
And
And all of that will help our algorithm.
algorithm, yeah.
Algorithm.
So this is the end.